Hello, welcome. It is our free weekly lesson from Digital DJ Tips, the world's leading DJ school. I'm Phil Morse and I'm here to teach you something about the big, brilliant world of DJing today. We are live. If you're watching the recording of this, don't fear. You can still ask questions. You can still get involved. Just use the comments underneath on Facebook or on YouTube. But if you are watching us live on Tuesday, the 1st, is it? 2nd of November 2021. Great. You can also ask questions. The best place to do it is on Facebook. And if you don't get your question answered underneath this live lesson by me, you will get it answered by the Digital DJ Tips tutors and team afterwards. So, you know, don't fear if we don't get around to your question on the live broadcast. Today, our question is, what the hell are audio interfaces? Do I need an audio interface? And if I do need an audio interface, why and what for, and which one do I go for? That's what we're covering today. We've got a load of examples of audio interfaces down here. You saw them in the opening shot, and I'll be talking about these, and I'll be talking about exactly what they are and why DJs use them. Even if you didn't think you were using them, you do. And so that's what the subject of today's free lesson is. And if you enjoy everything we do, if you enjoy this, you get value from it, then you can get more stuff like this, including these two free books, including the bestseller, Rock the Dance Floor on How to DJ, just for joining us. Go to that URL, digitaldjtips.com/join to do that. Right, so audio interfaces. If you need to either get audio from a computer, out of speakers, headphones, whatever, or you need to put any kind of audio into a computer, then you need an audio interface. It's as simple as that. So if you DJ with MP3s, for instance, you definitely need an audio interface. If you want to live stream, even if you're using old-fashioned vinyl and an old-fashioned mixer, you're not going anywhere near anything digital, as soon as you want to live stream, feed that into a computer to push it out live on the internet, you need an audio interface. So you're probably using an audio interface and you don't even know it. In short, an audio interface takes an analog signal, the kind of signal that a microphone or a record player or a musical instrument will make, and turns it into a digital signal that can be recorded on a hard disk or broadcast digitally. Or an audio interface will take that kind of signal, as we just mentioned, an MP3, like for instance you're playing an MP3 on Serato or Recordbox or Tractor, and it will turn it into something that you can actually feed to a amplifier and some loudspeakers or headphones or whatever and actually hear, because you can't hear an MP3. It's just ones and noughts on a computer drive. And so really, we're using them all the time. Your phone has got an audio interface in it. Your computer has got an audio interface into it, because the headphone socket and the microphone sockets on your computer have got, the other side of them, a little chip that is doing that conversion. It's turning anything you plug in, your microphone, your headset, whatever, into something that can be heard on your Zoom conversation, and it's taking whatever is going on that Zoom conversation or whatever and sending it right back down and into your headphones, or indeed DJ software, music software or whatever. Hey, that's a cool effect, isn't it? Look at my shirt there. Loving that, man. There we go, it's gone. So if these things are so important, should you go and get one right away? Well, hold off, because actually you probably already have one. You've got one built into your computer, but if you've got a DJ controller, even the smallest kinds of DJ controllers like this little one here, it's probably got an audio interface built into it anyway. How do you know? Because it's got a headphone socket and a output for your computer to plug your speakers into. I was just thinking, has this got one? I know it's got one. On this one, they are tiny little 1/8-inch headphones and speaker sockets, but they are there. So in this tiny little controller, you can plug in headphones and speakers. That has an audio interface in. That actually has what's called a 4-out audio interface in, which is the minimum you need for DJing. This is an important concept, so let me explain it to you. 4-out means that there are 4 independent sources of audio that are available on this. Now, they're put into 2 sets of 2, stereo speakers, stereo headphones. So in other words, your headphones have got this one and this one, that's 2. Your speakers have got the left and the right, that's 2. So that's got a 4-out audio interface in. Now there's no microphone socket on there. You can't plug a microphone in and have that appear in your computer. It's just got a 4-out audio interface in there. And for DJing, that's the minimum you need. So you can't DJ easily with the headphones output from a computer because it's only got 2 out, left and right headphones. So you haven't got an extra 2 to use for the speakers, which is why in the old days when DJ controllers didn't have audio interfaces built in, and they didn't used to, you used to have to buy an audio interface. This one here is a little tractor one from years gone by, which had a headphone socket and a speaker socket, just like the headphones and the speaker socket on this controller. The difference is that nowadays all DJ controllers have got audio interfaces built in. There's only one DJ controller I can think of that hasn't, and that is the DDJ 200 from Pioneer DJ. No headphone socket, no speaker sockets, no audio interface. So if you want to have this with stereo for your speakers and stereo for your headphones, you need an audio interface, a 4-out. This tractor one would do. There is a little hack that DJs use, which is called a mono splitter cable. And you plug that into the headphones output of the 2-out audio interface on a computer. You're getting this now, right? Because there's only 2 audio outs, left and right for your headphones. And it splits the audio from that 2-out and sends one of them to your speakers in mono and one of them to your headphones in mono. And it's called an audio splitter cable, and they actually provide one with this Pioneer DJ 200 so that you can plug headphones and speakers in, albeit in mono. So there is a kind of hack that DJs have always used, but you're still using an audio interface even though you're using the computer's one that's been hacked a bit. So whenever you want to listen to audio from a digital source like a computer, you need an audio interface to turn it into something you can hear through normal loudspeakers or headphones. Whenever you want to get analog audio from a microphone, a musical instrument, a record into a computer, you need an audio interface to do that as well. So where are they, and do you need one? Well, they're built into so much stuff nowadays that you probably don't. Your DJ controller, like we said, from the smallest one up to the biggest, they've all got them built in. Your mixer, if you bought a modern mixer, here's a Rain mixer, they've got them built in. You can tell they've got them built in because they have the audio, the computer USB sockets on them. That's not always true. It's not always true that the USB sockets will send audio, but they nearly always do. And so that means that you probably don't need an audio interface if there's one built into your controller or built into your mixer. You might actually have a little mixer like this. This is a live mixer that DJs sometimes use to get microphones into their system and other DJs and stuff. Some of these nowadays have got audio interfaces built in as well. Again, you can tell because on the back of the units, they've got a USB. This can be a really nice way of buying an audio interface. If you need to get a little mixer, again, if you want to put like microphones into your system, whatever, spend $20 more and get one with a digital output like this one has, and that means that you then plug it into your computer and you've got an audio interface there as well. There are times when you might want to buy one. So for instance, let's say you've got an old-fashioned DJ mixer and you've got a pair of turntables and you want to use it with control vinyl, you want to use it with DVS, you want to use it with Serato or whatever. Then you're going to need either some kind of DJ system with an audio interface built in, or you're going to need to buy one. So I've already explained that the mixer, like the mixer I've got here, they've quite often got them built in nowadays. But if not, if you're using, as I said, an analog mixer or whatever, you're going to need a DVS audio interface. I've got one here. This is a little Denon DJ DS1. This is for Serato. Now, when you're buying an audio interface to use with controlling your DJ software with DVS vinyl, it has to have not only the 4 outputs, so you can get the music into your mixer, but 4 inputs as well, so you can get the control vinyl, which has got computer code written on it, into here and then off to your computer. So a DVS interface has to be 4 in, 4 out as a minimum to use with 2 record decks. So if you're in the market for an audio interface, another concept that you need to get your head around is, do you want inputs as well? Do you want it to be able to take stuff and put it into a computer? And the answer to that question is going to be based upon whether you want to use it for DVS when you need it, but also if you're a musician. So this is a musician's audio interface. It's a very simple 2-in, 2-out audio interface for musicians. This is a Roland, I think it's called a Rubik's 22. Focusrite Scala is a very popular one. These are designed to let you put stuff into the computer and get it out again. And this is important because you might want to put your synthesizers or your singer with a microphone into the computer using one of these, but you're also going to need to monitor it with your speakers. This wouldn't be any good for DJing. It's only 2-in, 2-out. You can get audio interfaces for production that have got 4-in, 4-out, for instance, which you could also use to set up with DVS and for DJing. One of the things you're probably picking up on here is, as long as it's got the inputs and outputs you need, it will probably work for any situation you need it. So I'm going to talk to you about whether you need to buy one in a minute, but look, here's some more examples. This is a little one from Reloop. This is called the Reloop Phono, and this little audio interface has got inputs, one input, which is designed to put a record deck into. And record decks have got a very low output, so this has got a little preamplifier in it before it gets to the computer to make the record deck loud enough to record. But hey, if you've got a modern mixer that can accept record decks, you can use its audio interface to record. You just plug the computer into there and use the mixer to get that audio digitized and into your computer. What else have we got here then? I think we've pretty much covered all the things in front of me that have got audio interfaces built into them. Should you buy one? Well, see if you've already got one. If you, let's say you want to get a microphone, you want to do a voiceover on your live stream, right? And you want to get a microphone into your computer. Well, if you plug the microphone into your DJ mixer and your DJ mixer into your computer using the digital output, that's going to go into there along with everything else from the DJ mixer. No need to worry about it. Equally, you can buy microphones nowadays. This is one that instead of having on the back of them an audio output, they have a USB output. This is a microphone that's actually got a built-in audio interface. They're everywhere. So really, you want to just check that you haven't already got something that might have an audio interface built into it. If you are starting to make music and you want to use controllers, like you've probably seen the Novation launch pads, right? Launch keys, those controllers that have got nothing in them apart from a keyboard or a load of multicolored pads. These are digital devices, and these can only tell software what to do. You can't plug your headphones and speakers into them. So if you're using Ableton and you want to start making music on your computer and putting recordings into your computer and getting really good quality output from your computer, you might need to buy an audio interface. You can buy these for upwards of $50. A reasonable one to use for music, $100, $150, $200 will get you a really nice one. You start to get into sampling rates and all that kind of stuff as well, but you shouldn't really worry about that too much. Just find something that's within your price point. The real key thing here is that with a normal DJ setup, you're buying a normal controller, other than the little Pioneer one, the DDJ 200, which doesn't have this. But most controllers, from this tiny little Numark one all the way up to the big ones, they've got audio interfaces built in. Most modern mixers have got audio interfaces built in. If you want to get a microphone into your computer, you can actually buy microphones with audio interfaces built in already. And even if you've got a normal microphone like this one here, which has just got a normal analog output, you can probably plug it into a DJ mixer or your controller, and that can get it off to the computer. Sometimes microphones aren't included in the controller's audio interface. You'll just have to look. So you probably don't need one until you start maybe making music or wanting to use old-fashioned equipment like record decks and mixers, in which case you might need one that's got at least 4 inputs and outputs that will work with that. But the key thing is, has it got the number of inputs and outputs that you need for what you want? And if you want to DJ with it, it has to have 4 outputs for your headphones and your speakers. And if you want to use it with digital vinyl, it has to have 4 inputs as well in order to get the signal from the timecode vinyl into the computer in the first place, tell the computer software what to do. The computer then feeds the digital signal back to your audio interface, and it comes out of your speakers and your headphones. So that is a DJ's Bluffer's Guide to Audio Interfaces. You've learned today whether you need one, what they are, the differences between them, where they appear in your gear, and everything else as well. If there's anything I haven't answered here, this is your chance to ask that, because for the rest of today's free live lesson, we're going to go over to you and take student questions. So let's do just that. Hello everyone. I hope you found that useful. By the way, if you're watching the recording, do keep watching now, because you're going to learn stuff that I've missed or questions that I didn't think people would need answering. But if you find we haven't answered your question and you're watching the recording, ask underneath, because that's what we are here for. Right, let's do it. I'm just now going to scroll through the questions. Hello to all our regulars, Papa D and Andrew and Nick and Maria. And Hype Stereo, DJ Roadrunner, and to Morris and Amar, DJ John Roback and Renato and Craig in New York, Black Eagle and Chris and DJ Jimu and Mickey in Sweden, Nigel, hello Nigel and Black Eagle and Red on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. So many of you tuning in all over the world. Lovely to see you, especially people who haven't been with us for a little while. So hello to all of our regulars, a few of you on the screen now. Lord Carlos's hovercraft is full of eels. So there we go. And Torrell says, good topic. Well, I hope you found some answers here. Presmic says, I can't do live streams without one. No, you really can't do live streams without one. And actually, a nice little aside here, the camera I'm talking to you on now has got a interface. Now, it's not an audio interface, although it could carry audio from the camera, but instead, it's a video interface, and it's taking the HDMI output, which is an analog output from the camera, and putting it into an interface that turns it into a digital signal that can then push it out to the internet. So they work for cameras as well. So questions about audio interfaces, people. So apparently my voice is horribly low, says CMAX. So it does look a little bit low, I've got to admit, on the level, but it doesn't look horrible. But thank you for that. I will try and turn that up a little bit now. We just did I committed the cardinal sin of updating the software before going live, which is why we're a couple of minutes late with the live, because all kinds of things broke. So DJ Dash liked that little controller that I held up. Mixmaster G, always here with some technical know-how. Those little chips called digital to analogs, or DAs, are one of the main reasons for the DJ equipment shortage at the moment. One of the major manufacturers in Japan had a fire a year ago. Thank you for that piece of news there. Yep, that's true. Questions about your audio interfaces. This one is from Arek, who says, is Denon DJ's DS1, that was this little box here, as good as the Serato's SL2? I had an SL2 years ago, and it was class. I regret selling it. This is just as good, yeah. And I think the SL2 doesn't actually work anymore. I think it might be kaput, gone, because they can't keep it updated. But I'm pretty sure this one, well, I know this one is still being kept up to date with the latest OSs and so on, and drivers and stuff. Yes, it will be absolutely fine. A pair of balanced outputs are always nice, yeah. So now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the best kinds of audio interfaces. A balanced output is a output which you can then feed into a cable that goes for a long distance. So balanced outputs will be cleaner audio. There'll be less interference going on. Yes, they can be nice. I agree with you there. So lots of people talking about the interfaces I had on the table there. Don't underestimate the Tractor Audio 2. It will still work with iOS devices and charge them at the same time. I think they still sell this actually, and yes, it will. It's got a little charging port there. So this was for years ago when you were using Tractor on controllers that didn't have built-in audio interfaces. But yes, we keep this one and we find ourselves using this a lot. If you want to record your streaming service, such as Tidal, you'll need one. And this is very true, because if you're on DJ software, Serato, Engine, Tractor, Rekordbox, Virtual DJ, and you kick in a streaming service, then guess what happens? The record button gets grayed out. So you can't record your DJ sets that you're preparing with streaming services unless you have a way of doing it outside of your DJ software. Now, sometimes you can do it without an audio interface. You can use a audio routing program for your laptop or for your computer, whatever. Other times, especially if you're using a standalone controller like the Denon DJs or the Newmark Mixstream Pros, you're going to need an audio interface to digitize one of your outputs and get it into the computer for recording. Thank you for sharing that. You don't like my music. And so Christian says some controllers may not have good quality sound cards or interfaces, so DJs sometimes tend to connect the controller's output to a Pro Mixer channel input. It's true, and some DJs just prefer to use their own audio interfaces for whatever reason. There is there's always been some talk about how the Pioneer DJ interfaces on the DDJ 1000, I think the 1000, and the 800 and the SXs just aren't very good for digital when you're talking about the phono preamps, the built-in preamplifiers for your record decks. And so there are built-in audio interfaces in DJ units which just aren't very good. I remember years ago, American Audio had a controller called was it called the VMS4? It had an awful audio interface in it, but honestly normally they're great. Like the smallest controllers I've shown you here, that little new mark there, they sound fine. There's nothing wrong nowadays with the audio interfaces in gear. So Stu says, yes, a DVS interface, that thing that means I can no longer update my MacBook. Thanks, Rain. Yeah, there is a old swath of RAIN interfaces that no longer work with the current Mac OS and moving forward. So there we go. Mark says the new MacBook Pro has excellent microphones. I can't wait to try a MacBook Pro. Apparently in a blind test, everyone chose the MacBook Pro mic over an $85 USB mic. So there we go. That is praise indeed. So why are RAIN boxes being sold off? Are they discontinued? Because they don't work with the current Mac OS is probably the reason you might have seen them on sale. You don't like my music says, please distinguish between professional studio 8-channel interfaces and the more basic 2-channel DJ ones. The more you spend on an audio interface, the more it can do. Even a relatively cheap studio interface like this one here, the Rubik's 22, which is only a 2-in, 2-out interface, has got stuff on it that you won't find on a DJ interface. It's got power for condenser microphones, for instance, and the inputs are high quality professional inputs. It's got MIDI as well, so you can use this as a MIDI interface for plugging MIDI equipment into and getting the MIDI signal to and from the computer. So as you move into production interfaces, and as I was saying, the sample rates and so on get better. But really from a DJ's point of view, you're going to find any interface that works. You really needn't worry about too much of that stuff when you are DJing. Dave loves his Scarlett interface. We should review the Focusrite Scarlett. We haven't reviewed any of those. We should try and get to that. You've got me thinking about it. Quaid says, any ideas on the Tractor Control S3 with the very low audio input from both the main and headphones? It's because it doesn't have a mains electricity input. It runs off USB. So it has to use that USB power for everything, powering the whole thing. And that means that, you know, you don't get the bright, punchy audio that you get with something that you can plug into the wall. You just need to plug it into, you know, the headphones should be fine. Decent headphones should be loud enough. And as far as the output that goes off to your speakers is concerned, if you're plugging into a DJ mixer, you can use the gain on the DJ mixer to push that volume a little bit higher. But yes, it is a case that DJ controllers that only use USB power from the computer tend to have less power to play with. Well, they do have less power to play with, and that's one of the compromises that gets made. One or two other comments before we get out here for today. Honeybee is loving the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 as well. Robin says, does a mic that has a dedicated USB output suffer in quality compared to a traditional condenser mic plugged into an audio interface? That just depends on the quality of the mic, to be honest. I mean, we've used the microphone I showed you over here, this little blue mic, and it sounds fantastic. We have another mic, which I can probably drag in to show you here. This is a condenser microphone, but it's omnidirectional if you press the switch on the back. So condenser microphones tend to be, we're going off on a tangent here, they pick up all the background noise, but this one you can switch out to not do that. This sounds better than this. This is an analog microphone that's plugged into, guess what, an audio interface under there. But this microphone sounds better than that. It's nothing to do with the audio interfaces. It's nothing to do with whether the audio interface is built into there or you're using an external one. It's to do with the microphone and the placement and all that kind of thing. It's much more important to get a good mic that's close to the audio source and that's positioned properly than any, you know, where in the chain the audio interface happens to be, in my opinion. One or two more questions then, people, and then we're out of here. Again, if you enjoy this, if you find value in our free lessons, come and join us. We can give you a copy of our book, our gear guide, but also more importantly, we can give you our weekly Tuesday Tips live email with free DJ tutorials, reviews, features, advice, and so on. digitaldjtips.com/join. So Mark says, I'm using a Tractor Control Z2. How do I stream with good volume? Do I need another interface? The Z2, that's a good point. I'm 100% sure the Z2 has got an audio interface built into it. I'm just going to check because it's a while since I've looked at the back of the thing. You can put, well, you can't tell, but I can. It's extremely dusty. This poor thing up here. Yeah, as I thought, of course it has, because it's got control pads so that you can control the software with it. So of course it's got USB. So this is an audio interface. No, you don't need an extra audio interface. It's got a nice loud one built in. That is the Tractor scratch mixer. Pop that down there and get back to our live over here. I always have to check these things because the older you get and the more stuff you've reviewed over the years, the more you forget the feature set of each individual piece. Craig, do I need an interface to send a karaoke backing track from the computer so the volume will come out of a channel on my Denon Prime 4 film? You do, because the Denon Prime 4's USB will not carry audio, and so yes, you do need an audio interface to do that. Or just plug your computer headphones, get a lead to plug into the headphones output of the computer, because the computer's got a 2-out audio interface built in anyway, and then just plug that into a spare channel on your Denon. Have you noticed some are louder than others? Only the battery ones can be a bit quieter, but again, that Roland one I showed you there is can work fine off USB power, and it's fine. So just depends. As long as it's getting enough power, it should be fine. Right, so I think we're pretty much done today. If you've asked a question that I haven't answered, don't worry, my team and I will get to you in the comments. The best place to do that is on Facebook, because the comments remain underneath the recording on Facebook in a way that they don't on YouTube. But thank you very much, everyone who's joined in. I hope I've been able to help at least some of you with your questions here live. And if you enjoyed this, subscribe. We'd love to have you as our latest free member. But meanwhile, this is Phil at Digital DJ Tips saying, come join me on Thursday for our Any Questions session. Same time, but in the meantime, get good, get out there and make the moments. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.